week of April 13th through 19th. And this was a busy week. A lot was going on. If you've been watching my videos in order this year, you know that about a month ago or a couple months ago, I was going through a really burned out period of time. I was so exhausted, burned out, and I was taking no photos. And now I'm feeling much better and I have way too many photos. So for this week, what I was doing was I needed to just do a stash busting spread. I don't have a specific kit or anything. And I was going through my photos and I just had so many that I decided I'm going to print pretty much photos for every single spread or almost every single spot. So I wanted to maybe do one journaling card per side. And so I'm just going to kind of lay these out. So this week we did a lot around the house. We got the main area of our house painted. So that was the kitchen and the living room and the hallway. The hallway was not quite done yet at the end of this week. So that one, I think I'm going to have to, those photos, the after photos are in the next spread. Let's see, this actually can go here. But I'm just trying to kind of arrange things. These are in progress painting. I got a new keychain. We got this Jerry the giraffe. He's a toast tongs. Got some cat photos. We did some gardening. The tulips came up. So that is I have space for a title card. I have space for a journal card for each side. And then I'm thinking I'm probably going to put some labels or something to add more journaling on top of my photos. So this one's going to be super simple, but not too much going into it, more just focus on the photos. So I'm not really going to use that much from my stash because I'm focusing more on the photos and the words, but that's okay. I'll pull a few things from my stash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put you guys on voiceover when I start with the products. I'm going to go through my Project Life card stash. I do have those organized and I have a video sharing how I organize my Project Life card. So I'll link that in the description box below. But essentially, I'm just going to go through those, pull some cards, do my journaling, and start embellishing my photos and adding on some additional words. I'll probably pull over some label stickers or label die cuts from my stash and start adding words onto some of the photos and maybe some sort of embellishment. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so I started with looking through my Project Life cards to fill in my 3 spots. I decided to go through my stash of cards that are home themed. I have a home/cozy staying in type category. So I thought that would be really good to tell all of my home stories. So I'm just flipping through those. My plan is to have one journal card on the left that tells all of my home stories and one card on the right that tells all of my other stories from the week. And then of course my title card. I also found this cute little card that has this home icon on it, and I thought I could cut that out or punch it out to create an embellishment, which is always another way to use up your Project Life cards. If you have a ton of them, you can always cut them up to create your own embellishments, which I think makes such a unique look to your spread because you're altering something, so you're not using it the same way everyone else is, and all of the cards are so different. So I always like doing that. I pulled over my Take a Note to see what stories I have for this week. So I write down everything in my Take a Note, usually at the end of the week on Sundays, and then I keep quick notes in my everyday carry during the week so I know what to write. And then I use that as a reference when I'm coming back to fill in my gaps in my Project Life. So even if I'm doing this a month behind or however far behind, it doesn't matter because I have those stories recorded in my Take a Note. If you want to know more about that, I do flip through my Take a Notes monthly here. I will link in the description box below my most recent flip through if you want to see how those come together. Now I'm flipping through my journal cards that don't have any words on them to come up with one for my bullet point list. I do have a video sharing how I organize all of my Project Life cards, so I will also link that in the description box below if you're interested in seeing that. For here, I decided I wanted one that kind of had color blocks for each of the stories. I had quite a few different options like that in my stash. So I selected a couple of them that I'm going to choose from. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a list of all of the stories that I have and try to decide which one has the right number of little blobs. You can see I have that one there that has 5 stripes, and then I pull out one that has, I think, 4 and one that has 7. So what I essentially do is I'm going to select a card based on the number of stories that I have as opposed to the colors. But I do want to find one that goes with the rest of the spread. So I kind of went with more of like a pinkish purple color scheme this month or this week for my cards. But like I said in the beginning, this spread is almost entirely photos. You can definitely see that. So it does look different from a lot of my other spreads, and I kind of like that as a switch up. And I'm just going through all of these cards. I rarely go through this stack of cards that don't have words on them. So it was kind of nice to go through and kind of see what I have. Here are some of those other ones that I end up selecting to choose from. I think the one that I end up going with that has like most of those lines there, I think that one is from Kelly Perky. The one with the pink blobs, I believe, is from Ali Edwards. And I'm not sure about the other ones. I think some of the home cards on the left that I did end up using, the one that says "This is my happy place," I'm pretty sure is from Studio Calico, but it might be Ali Edwards. And the home is where title card, that's from Kelly Perky. So I do have a variety of brands in my stash, and I often forget where they come from, but I like just mixing them up in my spreads, especially when I'm doing these stash busting spreads, because usually I am working with a kit, which does make the spread come together much more quickly and easily. But when I am doing stash busting, I like to kind of mix the different manufacturers together because you get a different feel that way. And it just looks more me as opposed to that manufacturer. Hopefully that makes sense. And so what I'm going to do now is I pulled over my sticky note, and I'm just making an idea of a note of all of the stories I'm going to tell. But actually, before I decided to do that, I decided to fill out this journaling card where I'm going to tell all of my stories related to the house. So this week we got our painting done, the main area of our house painted, which I talked about a little bit in the intro. But because of that, and some other like home projects, because we were doing some furniture shopping and things because of the painting, there were some changes we wanted to make around the house that we were waiting for the painting to be done to get like new art for the walls and that type of thing. So we had a lot of home projects this week, and then it also just happened to coincide with springtime and needing to do a lot of spring yard work. So this week I spent a lot of extra time at home, and I focused a lot on these home stories. So I really enjoyed having this as a special kind of theme for the week. And it was unintentional. I didn't plan it in advance. It just worked out that way that every single photo in the spread, except for one, was taken at home, which is not, I guess it's pretty common that I have a lot of my photos taken at home, but I usually at least like I'm going to the office and stuff. I did go to the office one day this week, but I didn't take any photos there. I usually don't anyways. But still, I just like that there's just a lot of photos from our home. So it just felt very homey this week. For my title card, this card said "Home is where," and then it had some gaps for you to do some journaling. And so I decided to convert this into a title card. What I did was I stamped out "We Love to Be" with one of my favorite like wooden stamp sets. And I just picked that up on Amazon. I'll link it in the description box below. And then I added my dates with a rolling date stamp. I also am going to add some word phrase strips on here. You saw me pull one for that title card. I'm going to bring them back over in a little bit to add some more embellishment. Those are from Everyday Explorers. I have a ton of word phrase strips from Ali Edwards and other brands, but recently I subscribed to the Everyday Explorers journaling subscription, and every month it comes with a set of word phrase strips. And I really like them as opposed to some of the other ones because they are super thin. So they work really well in journals and things like that, but I also can use them in Project Life. So they're just very versatile to me. So I think I'm going to keep that subscription because I do really like those word phrase strips and a lot of the other components of the kits. Now I'm making my list of the stories that I want to tell on these cards here. So you can see I have the one with 4 sections, one with 5, and one with 7. And my plan is to just pick which one has the right number of spots. Actually, now that I think about it, I think that middle one is from Freckled Fawn. And so I do end up going with the one on the right that has more colors on it. That one is from Kelly Perky, because I have a lot of stories, but I don't have any like longer stories where I need that bigger space, like on the one on the left from Allie Edwards. So I'm just thinking through the stories I want to tell, and I'm using my take a note off camera to come up with those stories. So what I do end up telling here is the story about the day I went to the office and how busy it was. I also had a really long work call one day that I should have been in the office for, but it wasn't because of my painting, so I journaled about that. I had my Friday pass day, which if you don't know, for my job, I am a tax attorney and I work full time, but every other Friday I have off. So usually that is my craft content creation day. But the painter was here and he was painting right outside my craft room, so it felt really awkward and weird. So I wasn't going to film content. So instead, I just spent the day scrapbooking and working on layouts for my story album from 2026, and it was really fun. So I put that in there. We had our first pickleball of this season. We got a new KitchenAid mixer to match our new painted kitchen. I use my KitchenAid mixer all the time. And I had a teal one because I love teal, and I have used teal since my old house for a lot of my decor. And I use that thing pretty much every day, sometimes twice a day. And it just didn't go. Once we painted, I realized the colors just clashed and I hated it so much. So we upgraded it to a new KitchenAid. We got like the newer, nicer model, which I felt was justified because I use it so much. And then we were able to get a color that I thought coordinated. So I wanted to document that as well. And so I'm just adding in those little stories on this card. I wanted to add some bullet points. So you saw me try a few different selections from my stash of bullet points that might work on this card. And I ended up using these enamel dots from Cocoa Daisy. Cocoa Daisy usually has a set of enamel dots in their scrapbook kit almost every single month. And so I have a large stash of those and I really love them for bullet point lists. And I like that I have such a range of colors to select from because of collecting those kits through the years. I pulled over these label stickers. I think these are from Allie Edwards, but Studio Calico has similar ones. And I'm using them to write just a few additional stories on some of the cards. So this one is about Jerry the giraffe. He is some toaster tongs, and we wanted to add a little bit of whimsy into our kitchen and house. So I picked him out, and I think he's super cute. He just stands next to our toaster. I got a new keychain, so that's what this is a picture of here. And then I have a couple of them I'm going to add about spring. So in the top left of the spread, right next to my title card, there is a photo of me looking at my tulips. This one I'm adding a label on now. And this is my tulips as the green is coming up, but none of them have bloomed yet. And that was taken on Tuesday. And then on the right-hand side of the spread, the first tulips are blooming, which I think they came out, I want to say Thursday or Friday. I can't remember. I know that the painter noticed them before me and he told me about them. So I went out and took a photo of them. And then I think it was like there was like one or two, and then the next day there were a ton. So it was super exciting to just see those come to life. I love tulips, and they are usually, well, the daffodils are usually first, but the tulips are kind of like the first big thing in my yard because I don't have that many daffodils. I haven't planted them in years. That last label I added on there was of the cat litter box. We hung some art next to the litter box, which I thought was super fun. And then I'm pulling over the word phrase strips. These, again, are the ones from Everyday Explorers, and I'm just pairing them with some of the labels to add just a little bit more decor. The color scheme on this set I thought went really well with the spread, and I think they were kind of like a home themed one also, which just was perfect for this spread. So I wanted to use some of them to pair with some of these word phrase strips. Next, I went into my chipboard organization stash to pull out some chipboard. I wanted to add just a few more pieces on some of the photos. So I pulled this long one out that went on this photo. This is the only 4x6 photo I did on this spread, which is of the living room after it was painted. At the end of this week, the kitchen and the living room were done, but the hallway and the entry and everything were not. He finished that in the following week. So I had this after photo. I didn't do an after photo of the kitchen in the spread. I had some taken, but I just had so many photos this week. I definitely could have put an insert and added more photos, but I decided against it. I'm definitely going to document the painting experience in my story album. And I'm sure I will have a photo of my kitchen at some point in a spread, some point this year. I take a ton of photos in the kitchen. I love my kitchen. And, I'm often taking photos of like baking or just stuff going on there during a week in the life that's coming up. I will for sure take some photos. So I'm not concerned that it's not documented in this spread. I wanted to add another chipboard piece onto this photo here. This is the one that is not taken at home. We went to the garden store and picked out some new plants. So I documented that, and I wanted to just add a chipboard piece on there. And then I think I'm going through and pulling now word phrase strips. So I decided that I wanted to add something else, and I decided to go with some stacked word phrase strips on, I think I ended up just only putting them on like one photo, but I do add more next to the other labels. So I had added it onto a couple of the labels from that home themed one. And then, I added onto two photos. So I'm adding here on this one of the new plants. And then there's another photo of pumpkin in a box at the top right. And I'm going to add just some stacked word phrase strips there. That is one of my favorite ways to embellish photos and use word phrase strips is I will just select a couple of them and stack them along the edge of a photo. I like to stagger the lengths of those stickers, and I will pick colors that I feel like go together and sentiments that go with my photo. I usually try to pick the most specific sentiments first because those are the hardest ones to use. So for example, on that one of my plants there, I put sun, this happened, and open windows because those are more specific sentiments. This happened obviously is not, but the open windows and sun are more specific. I could do, if I just put something that said like documented or love this, those can go on pretty much any photo. So I try not to use them unless nothing else works. On this one of pumpkin, there weren't a ton that worked, but I did have one that said stay cozy, which I thought was really good for him just cozying up in that box. I decided to add some onto this one as well. We got some new art in the bathroom. We had actually finished our bathroom redo a couple weeks ago, I think, and I shared it over on Instagram, and I have a reel, and do I have a reel? I don't even know if I have a reel. I have a post at least about the bathroom redo, and we were done, and then we were shopping for art for the downstairs, and we came across something that would just be perfect in our bathroom. It was the right color scheme, the right shape, and we had a wall that we hadn't put anything on before, so we just decided to get it. So that's what that photo is documenting, and so I put some stickers on there as well. I'm again just going through all of my photos. I decided against putting stickers on this photo here, which is kind of the in progress painting. I usually like to leave at least one photo with nothing on it, and that is this photo here of my kitchen, or I guess my dining table. I feel like sometimes it gets a little too busy when you embellish every single photo. I also don't put anything on those photos of pumpkin. You can see in the bottom right pocket on the left-hand page, I have two photos of pumpkin, and that's one way that I was able to fit a few more photos into the spread. I had these two silly photos of pumpkin that went together. I couldn't pick which one I preferred, so I just created a layered template in Photoshop and added them both onto a 3x4 card. I could definitely embellish it with some word phrase strips. I could add a chipboard piece in the center of it, but I'm deciding to leave it plain because I feel like there's already a lot going on in this spread. At this point, I'm just going to go ahead and slip everything into the pockets. And when I do that, I do kind of like a final check of the spread of trying to decide, like making sure I like how every card looks. I like how everything goes together. I sometimes have to trim the photos to fit into the pockets because I don't always trim them perfectly in the first place. And as I'm doing this, I decided this photo here of pumpkin I wasn't thrilled with. So I took Pumpkin to the vet on Saturday, and this is a photo of him in the car getting ready to go inside the garage, and my garage wall is unfinished and looks awful. And I just felt like even though the photo is cute from Pumpkin's perspective, the background was kind of bland and ugly. So I wanted to cover it up with something. So I went into my chipboard stash again and ended up stacking a couple of word phrase chipboard pieces on top of it, which I thought worked really well as a way to kind of cover up that ugly background. I'm just going to go ahead and trim everything down. I was having a few issues with my trimmer there. I think I might need to change the blade. and slip everything into the pocket. This one, I'm super happy with how this spread comes together. These two here are in a 4x6 pocket, so I need to adhere them together with a piece of washi tape. I just pull some old washi tape from my stash. I actually have a little spot in my drawer under my desk that has just a couple of washi tape rolls that I don't care about, that I use for things like that, like marking on the back. I use them to mark spots on my desk, for filming, just like other little things where washi tape just comes in handy. So those are ones that I don't find super pretty. I'm sliding everything into the pockets, and I am going to call this spread done. I'm really happy with how this one came out. I don't love that I didn't use a ton of products from my stash, but I really like that I was able to get so many photos in and really document this week. Here's a look at that completed spread. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.